This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight now, we bring you a discussion on Sagarmala project, a boost to port connectivity and mobility. The participants are A.K. Bhattacharya, economic analyst, and Shishir Sinha, journalist.
Mr. Bhattacharya, the first question to you that the ministry has identified a total of 567 projects under convergence mode with an estimated cost of 58,700 crore under Sagarmala program. What kind of importance you see for the Indian economy?
Fairly important implications for the Indian economy and particularly the coastal economy. One has to see the background in which this decision has been taken. Probably, it will be good for your listeners to be aware that India has got probably one of the longest coastlines in the country, over 7,500 kilometers. India also has waterways, which are about 14,500 kilometers. So therefore, as a country, as an economy, it is ideally suited to take full advantage of this long coastline and the waterways available for greater connectivity within the country as well as for global trade. And it can be a very effective global maritime trade pathway. So it's very important in the sense that if Sagarmala is developed to improve the productivity and the port's efficiency in carrying this cargo through to different destinations, it will make a big impact on the economy. So it is in this context that the Sagarmala project has been conceived. As you rightly pointed out that the number of projects have been increased now. Earlier there used to be around 800 projects. Now the government has decided to add another 735 new projects. And they're essentially aimed at improving the efficiencies of the Indian port system and also to help inland water connectivity also. There are three major issues that the Indian economy faces, particularly with regard to its port development. One is broadly we all know about how the infrastructure is lagging. In a sense, there are operational challenges. Our ports are not of an international standard. And the second big issue is its turnaround time. The turnaround time of Indian ports is still 2.5 days, whereas the global norm is 1 to 1.5 days. And the third big challenge is that even though the ports are developed, they are not well connected within the country through waterways or from port to port connectivity. So the entire Sagarmala project, by these through various new projects, by committing a total investment of around 6.5 lakh crore rupees, his idea is to promoting direct as well as indirect development of port-led industries. You help coastal communities also, the coastal economic zones. We have around 14 coastal economic zones. They also get a boost. The transportation infrastructure is helped. The logistics costs can be managed. And probably you are aware that the roads as well as the railways, haulage of goods, and the waterway haulage of goods, the cost for the waterway haulage of goods is actually 5 to 6% less. So any way you look at Sagarmala, the idea of modernizing these ports through these projects actually will help enhance the country's economic muscles.
The other thing which is very important, you rightly pointed about the logistic cost. When Pradhan Mantri Narendra Modi ji announced about PM Gati Shakti Yojana, he also talked about the logistic cost. And the most important thing is that we have to bring it down to single digit. And you rightly mentioned about that the cost of haulage in terms of waterway is almost 5 to 6% lesser than road and railways. So developing the coastal area and developing the inland water, how this is going to help bringing down the logistic cost, and that will translate into better competitiveness in the international market?
The overall answer to your question is that any modern economy must develop an intermodal transportation network. When I say intermodal transportation network, it means that whether it is road, whether it is railways, or whether it is the waterways, the connectivity between these ports, waterways, inland waterways, the roads and the railways, the connectivity will have to be seamless and it will move from one platform to another platform without any difficulties. Now, one of the key objectives of these 1,500 projects that are being undertaken under the Sagarmala project is to help achieve that intermodal connectivity, that a good that is imported through export must move into the most efficient and economical mode of transport from that port to this final destination of consumption. Right now, what is happening is that those options are not always available. At times, the railway connectivity is not there. At times, even the road connectivity is poor. And there are 14,000 kilometers of waterways in this country. These waterways are not have been developed to take advantage of this available water resource to enhance your domestic transportation capabilities. So one of the important goals of these projects is to improve the port's efficiency and ability to connect themselves with these different platforms, whether it is the railways or the roads or the waterways. And that is what is meant by an all-round port development model. What is right now happening is, till the Sagarmala project, the government was investing in these projects within its broad constraints. But with the Sagarmala project, what has happened is that the public-private partnership model has come into play. So if the government is setting up, let us say, a project in a port to connect railway network with that port with easy transfer of goods from the port to the railway head, then there is public and the private, both are joining hands and taking up that project. So that one, the government's load of finances, the funding is coming down, and two, that there's a private sector involvement under proper regulation. That private sector economic activity will have a lot of down the line positive impact in reviving economic activity in the country. And finally, let me also say that if you are using the ports more efficiently, if you are using the ports connectivity with the waterways more efficiently, then the overall cost will come down, and the logistics cost in the economy, which right now is around 15 to 16%, should come down and hopefully reach the target the Prime Minister wants to bring it down to a single-digit level.
If we talk about the blue economy, why I'm using this word because just concluded Nordic summit when India met various Nordic countries, which was addressed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There he invited all the Nordic companies to invest in the blue economy. So if you relate the Sagarmala project with the blue economy, or should we say a part of blue economy, how do you see the relationship between these two?
I think the relationship is very strong and quite obvious. If you develop the coasts, the coastline, as I said, that there are about 14 coastal economic zones in the country which are being developed and looked at under the Sagarmala project. And, these zones, if I may call 14 coastal economic zones, are actually have around 72 districts. And these 72 districts account for almost 18% of India's population. Now, if these coastal economic zones have the benefit of a vibrant port system and port development, then the benefits first percolate down to these 18% of India's population who live in these 72 districts. Now, what do these people do? Many of them are actually dependent on the blue economy. A large segment of the Indian population on the coastal sides are actually dependent on, let's say, the fisheries business. And the fisheries business can actually be more efficient and be more productive if under the Sagarmala program, this money is used for improving the infrastructure facilities, improving some of the social development projects, improving the aquaculture business, and creating proper cold chain linkages between the ports where the coastal economic zones are there and the fishing communities live to the marketplace. So I think all these issues will help in developing and exploiting the true potential of India's blue economy.
One thing which is very critical in terms of public-private partnership, especially in the infrastructure projects, normally we see a very high cost overrun. But if I see the progress of Sagarmala project, 802 projects worth rupees 5.5 lakh crore targeted to be executed by 2035, out of which 202 projects worth rupees 1 lakh crore approximately, they have already been completed. Then 29 projects worth rupees 45,000 crore have been successfully implemented, and they are reducing the financial burden on the exchequer. And finally, 32 PPP projects worth rupees 51,000 crore are being implemented. So what is the basic strategy of completing the project within the time so that the cost overrun could be avoided, and that would be a great thing for the fiscal?
Absolutely. I think what normally happens is, till recently, the entire port development and the coastal economic zone development was critically dependent on the government's budget system, in the sense that if the government provides for so much money, the new projects will be undertaken only to the extent that the government's money is available. Now, the change that we see now under the Sagarmala project is that it is not just only dependent on the government resources, where the private sector is also coming in almost on a 50-50% basis, or maybe in a 40-60% basis, and they are developing the project and they have a share in the revenues that the new projects will generate. So it's a win-win situation for both the private sector as well as the government and the overall the Indian economy, which reaps the advantages of productivity gains, higher production. And remember that this cost overrun prevention is also achieved not just by ensuring that the private sector comes in and plays its role within a time-bound manner, but is also the use of the government's Gati Shakti National Master Plan, which is broadly a portal that monitors that what project is being executed and at what level it needs some intervention or monitoring so that it can be expeditiously completed. So the role of the Gati Shakti National Master Plan can also not be underestimated here. So both the public-private partnership model as well as the use of the Gati Shakti National Master Plan platform for monitoring and executing the Sagarmala project, in my view, is probably helping the government to stay within its own budget and implement those projects within the given time without running any cost slippages or cost overruns. So I think a new approach has certainly helped the Sagarmala project's execution.
One of the key issue when we talk about the waterway development, one of the key issue is the states and the relationship between states. How this particular project has been able to resolve that issue and take the project forward within the stipulated time?
You know, the Indian Constitution has mandated that the waterways are a center, an area that's to be looked after by both the center and the states. So therefore, waterway development cannot just be a responsibility of only the center, but also of the states. So I think this is yet another area where the need for center-state cooperation in furthering the cause of waterway development cannot be overestimated. Now, as we are discussing earlier, that the moment you rely more on the waterways for inland transportation, your cost of logistics will be cheaper, will be lower by at least 5 to 6%. Now, this will be a big advantage in bringing down the overall logistics cost in the economy. So therefore, the state's role and the state's cooperative consultation with the center for developing specific segments of inland waterways in different parts of the country with clear connectivity with the ports will be very, very critical and will play an important role in enhancing the success rate of Sagarmala projects.
Mr. Bhattacharya, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on Sagarmala project, a boost to port connectivity and mobility. The participants were A.K. Bhattacharya, economic analyst, and Shishir Sinha, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.